Everybody, what is going on, guys? It is Coach Tatum, and I'm here with Coach Rapanick, and we are here with episode number one of the Counterculture podcast. This has been an idea that Coach and I have been kicking around for a little bit, and we're going to come on here and we're going to talk all types of things. We're going to get into specifics, but really just being a man's man football, coaches podcast. Coach, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Coach. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
I'm
It's
excited that we decided to run with the idea. That's for sure.
yeah, man. I love podcasts. I've started and not continued a couple. Just based off of how just how my life has gone.
Right.
Coaching or doing different videos and stuff. But yeah, I love podcasts. I listen more podcasts than I do music, like going to work. Like
Man, I've been doing the same thing recently too. Like, I don't know if it's like I feel like I'm getting old or what it is, but I just there's always something that's good, you know. The Play Callers Club one's good.
yeah,
There's all kinds of stuff, and obviously like us, we're always trying to learn and all that. Um, there's just so many different topics and ideas that people talk on. It's awesome.
yeah. I mean, we go on field trips, and we go on road trips. Excuse me, my wife and I, and she'll. I mean, I'm not gonna rag on her, but she'll fall asleep and she'll go, and I'm just driving. So I'm like, all right, music off, put on a pod, and it could be sports, it could be true crime, it could be just
Right.
learning stuff. I listen to Joe Rogan, and that might be controversial. I don't care, but I listen to Joe Rogan.
I like that one
Um,
too.
yeah, so but yeah, my podcasts are a big part of my life. So yeah, I've always, but having a partner is the biggest deal. I can have guests come on and I can
That's
kind
right.
of lead it,
Yeah.
but having a partner is huge. So, when you said, "Hey, thinking about doing this," I was on board 100%.
Look, you were the first person I thought of. I don't know like where along in the line that we got connected. I was thinking about it the other day when we were figuring out the date and all that and how, we started talking through Twitter and all that stuff. And I
Yeah,
was just like, Tatum would be the perfect guy to do this with, obviously with the videos and all the success you've had with that.
yeah,
But I feel like, seeing the things that you post and all that stuff, it was it was like it's very similar when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I thought it'd be really cool. And, I think I was just scrolling through Twitter one day and I was like, man, Tatum would be it. Like, it would be awesome. So, and then
yeah,
obviously, like the same first name and all that stuff helps too.
yeah,
But
yeah. For those that did pick up on it, yeah, we're both Ian. Yeah, I think it's hilarious. My wife was like, "Really, you doing not that doing it with you, but you're doing that. You would have to find a guy to do a podcast with the
right,
same name." And I'm like, I mean, it works. I mean, I can't help it. I mean, it just clicks. But
that's it.
thinking about first time I really ran upon you, Coach, was I mean, honestly, I was when I was in Virginia Beach when I was at Tallwood,
That's
and
all.
you were
Yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, and you were at Norview, and I knew some guys around the area, and they were like, yeah, they knew who you were, but then we kind of connected through Twitter, like you said, and find out offensive line guys stick together, man. I
That's
don't
it.
care what it is. You never. I'm not on different type of chats like that. Hey, wide receivers, DBs. I don't care. They ain't doing the same things O line coaches are. So
That's a
you know, I,
fact.
yeah. So anytime you can get some coaches together, coach line, it's going to be a good time.
No doubt about that. That's
Yeah,
the best position in all of sports to coach, as far as, and I mean, in my opinion, and this may offend people, but I think it's the most difficult also. I mean, you got five guys that in a lot of cases are working the same direction and stuff like that. But to speak about the name of the podcast, on the counterplay, you're having to watch the puller steps and the down blocks and the double team and all that stuff. And there just isn't anything like it. And then, the brotherhood that everybody talks about with the offensive line room and stuff like that. It's just, I mean, you can't beat it, in my opinion.
yeah. The subculture that you can create with the offensive line is just different.
Right.
That brotherhood, like no one has to work together. Like the O line does. Receivers. Hey, we might have a 3-man combination route that split levels of the defense, but they're really independent of each other.
Right. No doubt.
Whereas as independent as the O line gets, is like play side backside. Like that's just that's just independent, but we still all work together.
right.
So yeah, I definitely agree. It's the hardest. I mean, we have the most guys on the field at any time. Like
Absolutely.
you can go 5 wide receivers, but I mean one's probably going to be like a tight end or maybe running
Mm-hmm.
back. So I mean, yeah, so many personalities and having to get those guys to work together is like, I mean, you can be a miracle worker sometimes. So
Right. I saw something on Twitter the other day that was like the culture of your O line basically determines the culture of your team.
yeah,
And I mean, if you really think about it, I think it's a real testament to that position. And I'm extremely biased, and I'll admit that. And I'm sure you're coming from a little bit of bias too. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's nothing like it. And obviously playing O line helps, but still, I mean, I think if I could have one role, excuse me, in a program, it would be coaching that for sure.
no doubt. Well, Coach, talk to us a little bit about your background. And, obviously, I played O line. Talk about your background and just playing and then coaching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Chesapeake. Well, I was originally born in Virginia Beach. We moved to Chesapeake when I was in like fourth grade, somewhere around there. I went to Hickory High School in like the southeastern part of Chesapeake, going down towards the Outer Banks from Virginia, and played left tackle. Was honestly not a very good football player. Like if I was playing for myself now, I probably wouldn't play.
Yeah,
But I started at left tackle, and kind of around my senior year of high school, my parents were like, "Well, what do you want to do? When you graduate high school?" And honestly, I didn't really know. I knew that I wanted to do something involving sports because I've always played sports. Obviously, football has always been like a big passion of mine. It's something that me and my dad did every Saturday. I'm not a big NFL guy. I watch it now a lot more than I ever have. But college football, Florida Gators are on. We're watching it. No matter what we're doing, the world stops when the Gators play. Um, Obviously, it's been a rough couple of years, but it is what it is. But
scared money don't make money, Coach.
that's right. That's one of my favorite quotes of all time, and our money is very scared right now.
Yeah,
But so I knew it was something football, and I always kind of heard, and obviously my head coach in high school and growing up, all of them they were all teachers. Obviously, PE teaching is probably the most common. I think social studies is really picking up, or history or whatever you want to call it. But um, I originally went to school because I always loved history. I originally went to school to be a history teacher, and I remember my freshman year at Old Dominion in Norfolk, I took a Latin American history class, and I was like 2 or 3 weeks into the class, and I was like, man, this just ain't gonna work. This is not the kind of history that I want to learn or teach. I always loved American history. And I was like, you know what, PE looks pretty good. I like that. And I switched my major to PE. And during my time at Old Dominion, I was a student assistant for the football team with Coach Wilder and his staff. And I did that all 4 years. I actually started as a student manager. I didn't know that student assistance was really a thing.
yeah.
And I remember my first practice, I was looking around and I saw these guys running back and forth and like carrying call sheets and practice scripts and all that stuff. And I was like, what in the world are these guys doing? Um, and that's kind of how it started. I went out to the offensive coordinator's office that spring and I was like, look, I don't know what I can do to help you, but whatever you need me to do, I'm going to do it. And I worked for him for 4 years, Coach Scott. And, I got to my senior year and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, I knew we were going to get married, and I saw like the amount of time, that those coaches spent, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do a great job of being a husband or a father, as a college football coach, and I kind of decided that high school was probably more up my alley because I always thought that there's nothing better than Friday night lights in the fall. Friday night, 7 o'clock in the fall, you can't beat it. Um, and I was reached out to by the head coach then at Hickory, Jupiter Wilson, about coming on staff, and I worked with him for 2 years, and then I got the procurement job in Hereford, North Carolina, and I was there for a year. Went back home and was at Nansemond River, and then I got the Norview job. And I was the offensive line coach there for a year, and then I got the head coaching job, and I was the head coach for 2. And really missed Perquimans, really enjoyed our time there. And my son was born, and it kind of came back to the kind of people that we want to raise our son around. And Perquimans was always a great place. And been here for going on 3 years now, and loving every bit of it. So it's been a good deal, man. I've really enjoyed it, and obviously coaching is a big calling that a lot of people have. And it takes a special kind of person. There's no doubt about that. And wives also, man. I just, I'm sure your wife goes through it also. Just the amount of time, and when you're home during the season, you're there, but mentally you're not always there. So really enjoying it now. Really enjoying raising our son around our program and stuff like that. And it's been great. It's been great. It's been a good journey. I wouldn't change it for anything. But so that's about my story, man. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's a great journey. Like I love learning about journeys, and then we've talked before,
Right.
but you getting this audience to know that. But I love learning coaches' stories because everyone's different, everyone's unique.
That's right.
Coach, 2 things. One, your dog is absolutely beautiful.
Look, he is all over the place. He was chilling before.
Yeah, that's a
That's my guy,
very beautiful.
Waylon.
There you go. And then 2, I did not know that Jupiter Wilson was at Hickory.
Man, phenomenal guy. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you this real quick. When I got the procurement job the first time, I was young and I was immature and thought that I was way better of a coach than I was, and probably still am. And I called him, or maybe I texted him about, I don't know, halfway through our season that year, and I said, Coach, I said, I need to apologize to you because I didn't realize the amount of things that you have to do that we had no idea about. The amount of things that he dealt with that, it just allowed us to just coach football. So I've always appreciated him for that. And, he gave me my first shot, and, I always will appreciate him for that. That's for sure. Coach Wilson is a phenomenal person.
Yeah, how did it go from being at a school named Hickory to now at a school named Hickory Ridge? That's
Right. What are the chances, huh?
Yeah, that's funny. That's just local connection. My wife's from Cabarrus County, so
Okay,
I know
got
that
you.
around there. Yeah. So yeah, I guess for me, pretty similar path. I mean, I played ball in high school, but I didn't play at a traditional high school. I played for like a private, team, and like for like charter school, private school, homeschool kids. Because I was homeschooled growing up. Just the way my family dynamic was with my older siblings being put out of school, and so it worked out for me because I was able to go to community college, dual enrolled. So my junior senior year, I wasn't even taking school. I was literally at the community college taking college classes. But I was coaching, not coaching. I was playing for that team, and we won a league championship. It was about 8 teams in the league all across North Carolina, and great experience. But I wasn't that great of a player. I mean, I was good for the leagues, the level I was at, which is what it is. But ended up walking on at Gardner Webb down here, west of Charlotte.
Absolutely.
It was not. I was a culture shock. I was not at that level at all. that's FCS level. That's good ball. I
Right.
wasn't at that level. I was probably a D3 player, but I was shoot my shot. I was like, I'm gonna better myself. Nobody from our league had ever gone to a D1 school, and I was like, I'm gonna be the first, and I want to just try. And I made the roster and made it through camp, and is what it is. But I know it wasn't gonna be anything. But I wanted to coach. Very young age. The scheme of it, the just X's and O's fascinated me. The camaraderie, the locker room, all those being on a team, things people talk about, I loved, the organization, the practice, those things. And so, I was like, if I can't play, what else am I gonna do? Oh, I can coach, and so getting into that, and then I thought it was just, oh, yell at some guys and
Right.
get them to run through drills and all those type of things. Then I left Gardner after 2 years, and but my second year at Gardner I was a student assistant, and I did everything. I was me and another dude, we were the squirrels, man. We were all over the place. We filmed the practice, we filmed games, we did breakdowns, we helped the GAs, we set up meeting rooms, we would set up drills, we would do all these different things, anything and everything that could be done, we did.
Right.
And so, and it really just was a sponge the whole time. And then I ended up coming home so I could finish my degree somewhere cheaper, and then start coaching. So I started coaching for the team that I ended up playing for, and coaching for a man that didn't coach me, but he had taken over once I had left. Man by the name of Cecil Mitchell. He was a mentor to me and taught me how to coach and how to treat people and how to treat kids. He didn't care how much I knew. First question he asked me when I sat down and talked to me, he's like, "Do you love kids?" 100%. And I've kept that with me ever since. And that's why I coach. Is doing it for the kids.
Absolutely.
And the mentorship aspect. So coached for him for 4 years, 100% volunteer basis. Like when I say, oh, nobody gets into coaching for the money. It's like, yeah, well, for 4 years, I coached 3 squads. I coached their varsity, I coached their JV, and I coached middle school football at a local middle school that I was subbing at. So I would sub all during the day, get out at 3:30. Practice was at 4. Middle school practice. Middle school from 4 to like 5:30. Drive an hour to Greensboro. Coach them from 6:30 to 9 for 4 years. So you don't do that unless you love ball.
That's a fact.
So then I moved. I was like, I want to kind of try my hand. And this was still, this was 20. See, I left. This was 2018. And at that point, it was still hard to find coaches, I guess, but you could find more quality guys. And so I ended up applying for 74 jobs across North Carolina and Virginia, and didn't get one call back but one. And Coach John Keppel at Talwood High School in Virginia Beach, he called me. We had a phone interview. He wanted to bring me in, and I met with him and Coach Zamel Johnson, the defensive coordinator, and the rest is history with that. I put on a tie. Literally, it was a high school interview, Coach. I thought I was going to college. High school interview. Now you want to look nice. You want to,
absolutely, absolutely.
But Coach, I wore a tie, and
I love it.
And I went in there, and Coach literally left the gym to come interview me in shorts and in a shirt. And I was like, I felt so awkward. And they were like, dude, no, it's all good. And I guess they liked the interview or whatever. So then I moved out there, and then we had a season, and we went 3-7, and I could care less. We could have went 10-0. It felt like we went 10-0.
Absolutely.
Because I was loving life, and I was on my own and doing stuff. But then that was the 19 season. So we all know what happened in March of 2020. So then COVID hit, and my dad ended up getting prostate cancer, and ended up coming back to North Carolina, left Virginia Beach, and then started working for a man named Nigel Pearson at North Rowan High School down in Salisbury, and worked for him for 3 years. And I learned I didn't even know what I didn't know. And he was a offensive coordinator at South Carolina State, and like O-line coach at Catawba, and
wow.
So I just learned so much ball and it's offensive side, and learn how to work, because we're a 1A school. You know how it is. It's a 1A school. You don't have many guys at all.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. So you don't have many coaches. You don't have many players. So you had to get creative. And then this past year, decided I wanted to try my hand at coordinating and calling plays, and came to Walkertown, and been here. This would be going into the off season of my second year now. So under a new coach now, Trip Honeycutt, and we're gonna try and he just started at the school on Monday, so
Awesome.
we're gonna. I've known Trip for a long time now, so it's gonna be kind of seamless transition. But
I was gonna say I've heard great things about him.
yeah, so we're gonna hit the ground running as soon as we get back from the quarter starts next Monday. So you know, loving life, man. I might take a step back. It's what it is, but I love coaching the offensive line, so I care less.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it's just like I said, it's a great position to coach. You
Yeah,
see all Brennan Marion, the offense
yeah,
coordinator. Everybody knows about him, the go-go offense. But he always says, "How you play without the ball determines how much you love your teammates."
yeah.
So lineman, every single play. You know, um, it's, it's the best position in America.
It is, and I tell some guys they're like, hey, I want to get better at coaching, and what should I do? And I said, study offensive line coaches, study techniques, call people, because if you can understand the offensive line and know what they're doing up front, everything else kind of fits around it like a puzzle.
That's a fact.
Um, but if you try to go the outside in, it's a lot harder, in my
No
opinion.
question. I
Because
agree.
like you say, the running game, with running backs and like maybe tight ends, like tight ends is the best position outside offensive line there is, but
Good mix to be able to learn
it's
both for
great mix.
sure.
It's a great mix to learn both. Cause I know tight ends and running backs, or if you want to call it an H back, kind of go together. So if you want to,
Right.
so if you want to coach those, you can learn the running game until you don't get the passing game or protections. So yeah, learn the offensive line, man. So uh, I, I'm gonna add this. Even though we're offensive guys, I do tell young guys, you want to progress and you want to move up in the profession, learn defense. Go be a defensive guy. You can be a coordinator way faster. That's just my opinion. But
Uh,
what are your thoughts on that as a head coach?
you know, back to my time at Hickory. Um, I started there, and I can't remember what position Coach Wilson wanted me to coach, but the guy who was the head JV coach was also the offensive coordinator at the time, and he left for another job. And I was like, Coach, I've always been an offensive guy. I feel like that I would be better, coaching, calling the JV offense. Obviously, of course, I'm going to run your stuff and all that. But after that year, our defense coordinator left also, um, and it just happened to somehow work out that I wound up being the defensive coordinator. How I don't know. I had no experience. I didn't play defense in high school. My roommate at ODU was the student assistant for linebackers, so we would talk, but I don't think either of us really knew what we were talking about when it came to
Mhm.
football because it was like you just happen to hear stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I wound up calling the defense, and I knew that I wasn't like a long term defensive guy.
Mhm.
At least I didn't want to be. But I did that for a year before I came to performance the first time, and um, I think really, I think you're right. I think that, and this is probably going to offend people too, but I think the transition from offense to defense is easier than the opposite.
Mhm.
Um, that's just my opinion. And I think what helped me is because I knew offensive line play. I understood protections. I understood, um, blocking schemes, obviously, and things like that. So I understood how to beat those protections. And we were doing probably the most unsound defense that you've ever seen in the history of football. We ran a 4-4 cover three, and I was sending like 7, 8 guys on every play.
Yeah.
But it was fun, and I
That
felt
was
like the kids bought into it. But I definitely think if you're a guy who wants to be a head coach, if you're a guy who wants to understand your side of the ball better, and I don't think that you necessarily have to go say like, "Hey, let me be the defensive coordinator this year." But if you even try to be to a level of involvement that's more than what you have been with the defense,
Mhm.
whether it's sitting in on defensive meetings, whether it's, you know, following around the linebackers coach or whatever it is during defense time. I definitely think that, there's something that you can pick up I try when we go to clinics to sit in on defense stuff because I want to know how to beat it. As an offensive guy, you want to know how to beat whatever you're seeing often. So I definitely think that if you know defensive football, even, well, this guy's got hook curl and, if two goes vertical, he's going to carry them, whatever the case is, even like to that level, it's going to help you become a, a, a better play caller or, a better position coach even. Because now you're able to give more input on Friday night or in game planning and stuff like that.
Yeah, like that's really the main reason why I'm doing like in my clinic series. Like I could find as many offensive coaches as I could find,
Right.
and we can do that all day long.
That's right.
But I'm starting to implement a little defense, and literally I was like, I need some defensive guys to come talk ball, and I had like 15 guys hit me up, and like whatever day I think it was Martin Luther King. I recorded like 6 shows, and they'll come out progressively, but like I want to know more about defense. There's only
Right.
so many. There's only so much. There's only so many running plays in
That's
the
right.
world. Like, will I ever know them all? No, but like I know enough to run the ball. And
Right.
so, but what I don't know, I want to be able to speak with authority when it comes to defense. Because I know basics, I know fronts. There's I mean, blitzes are blitzes. I mean, there's different
Right.
combinations. You can call it, purple dog crap. I don't care what it is. You can
Right.
call it up and
Everybody
score.
calls it something different too, right?
Yeah. So, but then my biggest thing is coverages. I want to learn more about coverages, and so yeah, definitely. If you go to clinics, if you're not going to a defensive clinic, at least once, I
Right.
mean, I go to the offensive line, sessions to see who's there, like the other guys in the session, like,
Right.
but I'll go to the receiver room. Like, I want to learn about these routes. I want to learn, how to coach them better. Find what your weaknesses are and explore them. That's what clinic season is about.
Right. And I think, I mean, even going to a position that you're not quote unquote comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I, when it comes to receivers, you know, I can talk it because I'm a quote unquote spread guy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to drills and some of the crazy stuff that people have receivers doing, I, and I know that's a weakness of mine. But same thing, with defensive, like the point that you just made, figure out what you need to get better at
Yeah.
and just go do it. And I think clinics can be taken like one of two ways. You have the guys who are there that want to learn, who are going to go to to sessions that they don't know about. And then you have the guys who are there to hang out and, go to all the sessions with their boys and stuff like that. But I think the guys who are really, really the ones that, are intentional about how they go and how they handle themselves there and all that stuff are the ones that you see a guy that's my size sitting in a DB session.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody, if I walked into a session that was DBs, they would be like, wow, you're way too big to coach DBs.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it helps because they're talking coverage. Like you said, they're
Mm-hmm.
talking, press bail technique or, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always something that you can learn from that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I'm big on, you need to know the specifications of something, like wide receivers, like, hey, I want you to run this route at 5 yards, or, I want you to run DBs, you're going to do this, this back pedal, you're going to, have this technique on this receiver. But you don't have, for us, we don't need to have the specialization. Like, that's why we hire guys, like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, well, I need to know every little thing about receiver play. No, I'm going to get me a darn good receiver coach.
That's right.
And if he doesn't happen to be there one day, I can still get through,
Right.
But, yeah, that's how I found value in. But too often, and I fell into this trap, too many people, they fall in love with titles and all those things. And, it's not that I wanted a title so bad. It's that I knew it was fun.
Right.
Calling a touchdown on Friday night is fun.
It's a good feeling, man.
That's the next progression. Like the video I had up, about that fake bubble tunnel screen.
Yep.
First touchdown I ever caught on varsity. Like I'll take that play wherever I go. Now it helps when you have a dude that's going to Lenore Ryan, but to run it.
Of course.
But like I'm gonna, you never forget that type of thing. So,
Absolutely, man.
um, but
Absolutely.
then I get my enjoyment in other ways, like when we pancake a three technique on power.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think, to an extent, I think that everybody for a long time in their coach, at least what I've experienced,
mhm,
I guess if you include ODU, I'm going on like year 12 or 13, I'm not sure.
mhm,
But part of the reason why I wanted to be the defense coordinator at Hickory is because I wanted to be a varsity coordinator.
mhm,
Um, because I always knew that I wanted to be a head coach, but at the same time, you know, I would be lying if I said I didn't feel cool to be able to say like, yeah, I'm the defense coordinator. You know, obviously that's part of it. But I think as you grow and mature, not only in the profession but in life, you start to realize like, you know, I'm doing what is best for the kids and what that makes me do, title, whatever,
mhm.
then it is what it is. Um, and I respect the crap out of you for, sticking with it. I know, we talked a while ago and you were kind of, worried about it, but um, I think the kids will appreciate the fact that you're going to be able to go into a another coach's tenure, I guess would be the best way to say it, and
Mhm.
you're still there. You're that constant. Whether there's other coaches or not staying, I don't know, but
Yeah.
you're a constant for them, and somebody that they can come to if and be that mediator for the head coach as well. Because I think there's a lot of times where uh, position coaches or coordinators, for that matter, aren't that. Because a lot of people are chasing those titles or whatever the case is.
Mhm.
Um, that goes a long way, man. It really does. And I'm not just saying this because we're on, recording a podcast, but
Yeah.
I think that's something that, and I'm not saying anything about where at Perquimans or anything like that, but that's something that's just not, you don't see very often anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, but I respect the heck out of you for it. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, it gets to the point where, and if I was to move on this past off season, well, this off season now, like my wife and I were trying to get to a certain place, like
Right.
there's a certain region of the country, of the state, and it
Out
just
it.
didn't work out. It wasn't in God's plan,
That's
and
right.
so hey, if you're really about the kids, buckle up and let's get it, and make it happen. And
That's
so
right.
a couple of my guys, they texted me over break and they were like, we're ready to get back going and all that stuff. And I was looking at my wife and I was like, there ain't no way I can go anywhere. Like,
Right.
but one thing I'll say about is that there's a trap there. Like, because one of my coaches once told me, he's like, Coach, there will always be kids. There will always be a new group.
Right.
Like, so eventually, if the time is right and things happen, line up, and you feel like God's moving you on, you need to do it. But hey, while you're there, love on the kids, man.
That's right. The be the best you can be where your feet are.
Hmm.
That whole deal. I
Yeah.
think it's it's something that I'm glad that I learned um, when I did, I guess is the best way to put it.
Hmm.
Um, because I think a lot sometimes we find situations, where we think it's going to be a better situation and it's not. And obviously you don't realize it until you're at that new situation. And, you think that it's going to be something and you really wish that you were where you were at before anyway.
Yeah.
Um, which obviously there's not a whole lot you can do about it at that point, but um, I think that it's a true testament to you and your love for your players, that you know a text made you say we ain't going nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, but like you said, on the other side of it, you know there is always going to be a group of kids that love you and that are going to fight for you and all that stuff. But sometimes you just get that feeling that this is right where you need to be.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's something that's hard to fight for sure. That's
Yeah.
definitely something that's hard to fight.
Yeah, man.
But coaching's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. A lot of people don't understand it, but finding guys that do it for the right reasons is a fantastic thing. And the fact that your first interview, the guy said, "Do you love kids?" I mean, to me, that's how every interview should start. And I've
Yeah.
never started one like that.
Yeah.
But I feel like, the loyalty aspect and the you're truly doing it for the kids aspect is something that needs to be, um, and I'm saying this because I need to do it more worried about than, well, can you draw up 20 personnel, whatever, or,
Yeah.
can you line up to this formation or whatever the case is. Um, I definitely think that's something that should be more at the forefront of why coaches hire coaches for sure.
Yeah, I know several head coaches usually say, I can teach you ball. I can't teach you to be a good person.
That's right.
I,
Absolutely.
I,
That's a
I
great
can't,
way
I
of
can't,
saying it.
I can't give you morals. You're
That's
either a
right.
good person or you're not. Can you pass a background check?
Right.
Can you get your volunteer waiver for the county or whatever it is? But we can teach you ball.
Right.
Now you got to have a personality to teach and coach. But I mean, for the most part, we can find you a role.
That's
Even if
right.
it's not, directly doing like you're not in the leadership position, you can, whatever it is, handle the field setup,
Right.
cut grass, cameras, something, we can figure out a role for somebody. But if I have to worry about whether or not, you're safe around the kids, no, it's not
Right.
gonna happen.
Right. I mean, I had a coach on my staff that was like that this past year. And we were trying to find somewhere for him to fit in. He didn't have a whole lot of knowledge of the game. But at the end of the day, he always took care of the kids. He was,
Mm-hmm.
one of the first people to say, "I'll give so and so a ride home," or, if we were trying to get a kid meals for, whatever, anything non-football related that involved benefiting the kids, he was one of the first people to do it or volunteer to do it. And I took him to the side after the season. I said, "Look, man," I said, and it was his first year on our staff. I said, "We're going to find a position for you." And it worked out that he's coaching running backs this year. But
Awesome. Awesome.
that's something that I want to say just kind of fell on me because I didn't ask those questions about, what kind of person are you, basically, for lack of a better way to say it. Now, he was very adamant in his interview about how much he loved working with kids and stuff like that. But, not everybody is always so pressing with it, I guess you could
Mm-hmm.
say.
No doubt.
Um, but yeah, man, he's doing a great job. And, when we start rolling up here soon, it'll be good to see him start to come into his own as a coach. And, um, you know, like I tell everybody, somebody took a shot on me. So I'm going to take a shot on you. And, if it works out, perfect. We're both right. And if not, then, we'll figure out how do we need to make an adjustment, or we'll have a tough conversation to figure out what we need to do better. But, um, I think that's something that's not recognized enough by me, especially,
Mm-hmm. All right, Coach. Well, let's talk about the name, counterculture, and for those that don't know, Coach and I love running counter. I mean, that's my favorite play. So kind of coming up with a name. We kicked around some things and trying to figure it out because I like marketing and stuff like that, but names have always eluded me.
I've
So
always been bad too.
yeah, so I sit coach, counterculture, and that phrase has kind of already been established, but with our spin on it, it hasn't. And obviously, we like the play counter, but I think for me, uh, especially, I think just being against the grain or a little different, not falling in with the same, falling in line with what's normal, I guess. That's kind of been me. I'm not. I'm unique. I like to think. If I wasn't, I don't think my wife would like me. But but yeah, that's kind of me. It's just a counterculture. Just being kind of a little bit opposite, a little strange. At least that's for me. I'm not saying about Coach Rapanick, but I think kind of fits in with me as well. And then obviously the play is, it's gorgeous. So
It's a plus, that's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think I came up with like 2 or 3 ideas, and you sent a couple. I don't know. You had a lot more ideas than I did. That's for sure. But I was reading through it, and I was like, counterculture. That's perfect.
yeah,
And I don't know, like to add to your point, I don't know necessarily what it means,
yeah,
but it means a hard nosed play that can that when it hits, it's the most beautiful thing in the world.
yeah,
Um, and just like, I had so much fun at your last clinic, um, the Tatum clinic, and I'm so disappointed I can't go Saturday, but um, you know, I said then that whatever we have to do to be able to run counter, we're gonna do it. And I feel like, all the great things about counter are hopefully all the great things about this podcast too. So I think it's gonna wind up being a cool deal, and that name is awesome in my opinion. I don't know how everybody else is going to feel about it, but to me, A plus for sure.
yeah. So some things you kind of how we're going to kind of structure the podcast, because today was kind of like an introduction, kind of like first one,
Right.
get the kinks out,
Absolutely.
stuff like that. So, definitely, we're talking about football. That's obviously going to happen. We'll have guests on. It'll be three, type person, round robin of talking about topics, and it's going to be topic driven. It's going to be issue driven. And we'll talk about football. We're going into the off season, so there won't be really games to talk about. But keeping it going, as long as we are, we'll talk about ball when it comes back. But yeah, I think if anybody has any suggestions on topics, we'll dive into it. We'll have our own. And then if things happen in the off season, locally or nationally, we'll talk about them as well. But that's what to expect, and then great conversation. Yeah, I love conversation. I
Absolutely.
don't
Me too.
I don't like necessarily like this is the way it is. This is
Right.
structured. Like we have to answer this question. It's not like we'll go off on tangent. Talk about
Right.
things. Like that's what I find entertaining on podcasts. So definitely we'll do that for sure.
Yeah. I think, the more the more questions that we can talk about, because there may be something that a lot of people think, and we just, we may have experienced it, like we talked about when we were first talking about doing this thing. One of us may have experienced it, both of us may have experienced it.
Mhm.
Um, but if it's an experience that I've had, I'd be more than happy to talk about it. I think the thing that you and I bring to the table together with something like this is that we're both younger.
Mhm.
We've experienced being on staffs where everybody's kind of like, you know, you're too young to understand football kind of thing. At least I have.
Yeah.
But I think the younger aspect of it and being able to see multiple different things is what's going to make this whole podcast with us so great. But definitely let us know if there's anything that you want us to talk about, or any kind of topic, or anything to help us keep it and get this thing going for sure.
Man, let's talk a little ball.
All right.
Uh, talk a little ball. As a Ravens fan, we're not talking about our game first because I was actually at a wedding during the Ravens
Oh,
game. Yeah, it was a long buddy of mine. We went to college, and all my college buddies were there, so it was a little bit bearable. But we
right.
ended up in where the groomsmen was a
I was gonna say,
75
Coach, were you the guy in the corner on your phone watching the game,
coach.
like in the
During the
commercials?
during the reception, while we were eating, I had it on my phone. I
That's
don't
acceptable
care.
for sure.
I don't care. Like I've done it at multiple weddings. One wedding, somebody got mad. It wasn't the bride and groom. Somebody got mad, and I told them they could kick rocks. And then, but then so I had it while we were eating food. But then I put it away while they were doing like speeches and stuff and dancing.
Right.
But then as soon as they went to do like everybody dancing, yeah, we went and watched the game on the 75. So so Yeah, getting to watch the Ravens, man. But yeah, hey, for who do you root for, Coach?
Look, like I said kind of at the beginning, I've never been a big
Yeah.
NFL guy.
Mhm.
Um, if I had, obviously being from ODU, I follow Taylor Heineke and some of the other
Mhm.
guys who, played there. But for the most part, I love good offense.
Mhm.
I love watching the Ravens play.
Yeah.
Um, when the Chiefs are obviously playing well right now, but um, I loved watching them play last year and the year before. I love watching the Dolphins play.
Mhm.
Guys who are going to spread it out and air it out a little bit. I love watching that. And then, you know, guys who are going to, the 49ers also love watching
Yeah.
them play.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the length of their play calls with the amount of pre snap stuff they do. Like, you know, I was watching them I guess it was Sunday, and I was like, man, like in my terminology in our offense, we would be signaling and get a delay game because we wouldn't be able to get it all in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't have an NFL team. You know, I do enjoy watching the Ravens play, like I said. I guess, I'm partial to the Ravens and
Mhm.
uh, the Commanders, I guess, to an extent, because I'm a Virginia guy. I don't know, man. I can't commit to a team. I'm a free agent, I guess you could say. But like I said, the last couple of years, really this year and last year, I've watched way more NFL football than I ever did.
Yeah.
But you kind of get the shock factor of like football's ending. So I'm definitely
Mhm.
going to watch the playoffs because I'm not going to have it for a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
What
but
I'll say is, longtime Ravens fan. Uh, you know, I've been through, not having a quarterback. Been
right,
through John Harbaugh getting hired, Joe Flacco. I remember exactly where I was. I was in my parents' den when Billy Cundiff missed a kick in 2011 to send us to the AFC champion, send us to the AFC championship against the Patriots.
hmm
Uh, and we that it worked out. We got Justin Tucker, and then I was sitting on the same place when we beat the Broncos in the divisional round on the Hail Mary to Jacoby Jones. So I've been around the block with the Ravens. So anybody that's watching this that don't know me, I'm not just some guy coming around, with the Ravens this
right.
year. Because I was just I had the same feeling last week that I had in 2019, right before we were going to play the Titans and got killed. We were the number one seed, and Lamar won
Right.
MVP. So same deal. But I'm with you, Coach. Outside of the Ravens, I am a college guy. I'm an in-state fan. My dad went there. My whole family went there. I would have went there if I didn't play ball.
Really
Um,
big portal quarterback they just picked up too.
yes, yes, McCall, yes.
He's a
Um,
baller, man.
he is. Like, but I was saying, like, I could watch two FCS schools play the whole game,
Yep.
but I'll be darned if I'm sit there and watch the Browns and
Right.
Jaguars play on Sunday night. No,
Right.
I'm not doing it. But I'll watch any college game. Doesn't matter. I will replay it. I'll record it. I will play it back. So yeah, I'm definitely more of a college guy. Just happens to be where we are right now in the pro game. So
Right. Yeah, I think. I mean, some of the FCS schools too are. I know like they don't air it out, but North Dakota State watching them play is phenomenal
mhm.
too. I
Yeah.
mean, you talk about like a O line coach's dream is watching North
Mhm.
Dakota State play, and they run
Yeah.
A gap power for an entire drive,
Yeah.
and I mean it's beautiful. But when I was at Old Dominion, we were FCS, so I was able to see a lot of smaller schools that some people know about. Obviously, being from Virginia, everybody knows JMU was FCS and
Mhm.
William and Mary, schools like that. But we played some schools like when Coastal was FCS before they really got into running like that gun triple stuff. I mean, they ran a really awesome offense too.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm like you, man. Saturday, I wake up, I game plan, watch the film from Friday night. Um, hopefully, I'm done with a good bulk of it before game day comes on, and I mean, 8 o'clock, I'll maybe start watching film again. But Sunday's normally like my prep day for the most part.
Yeah.
I like to have like a decent idea by the end of the night Saturday. But I mean, there's times where I'll just like wind up being up at 10:30 and I watch the West Coast games.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens, you know. But Sunday I'll have it on like in the background or whatever. But for the most part, Saturday, I mean, that's my deal. And I feel like there's always a good college game on.
Yeah.
It may not always be like big name teams, but there's always a game that they're scoring 50. And people are throwing the ball all over the place and they're creasing counter and inside zone and all that stuff. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
This kind of leads into the same thing. So, because we had a conversation when I was at North Rowan, Coach was like, "Hey, would you rather meet on Sunday or meet on Saturday?" And I was going to say, do you physically meet on the weekend with your staff, or is it online?
So we last year, I found, and I think Coach Wilson at Hickory Ridge now actually gave it to me, a Google Sheet, and it was good to us. Everybody had a portion. There was questions that we had to answer about, like the opposing team's position group. Obviously, O line. You're talking about D line and stuff like that, and that kind of helped us build the game plan. But we kind of got to the point where, honestly, it wasn't in the detail that it was at the beginning of the year. So what we're going to do going into the fall, or in the fall, I guess I should say, is we're still going to do our game plan sheet, but then Sunday night, later in the evening, once everybody's kids have gone to bed and all that stuff, we're going to jump on Zoom for like 25, 30 minutes and go through everything, make sure we're on the same page for practice and all that stuff. But I have never been, and I'm probably going to get annihilated for this. I've never been a huge proponent of coming in and meeting for an entire day on a weekend. And that may be the reason why I've never won a state championship. I've never been past the third round of the playoffs. That may be the reason why. But as coaches, we're all adults. We're married, we have wives, we have girlfriends, we have kids, whatever the case is. And the season is a grind, late in the season and all that stuff. And I don't want to take 7 days of a coach's life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think 6 days, 5 and 25 minutes is a good deal, but that's just me. And like I said, I may get annihilated for it, but I've kind of always felt that way. Now at Norview, when I was the head coach, we used to watch film with the kids on Saturday mornings. We would watch film for an hour, and then we would do yoga. And the kids at first were like, "Why are we doing yoga? This is the craziest thing in the world." But then they wound up loving it. And we did that, but like I said, I try to stay away from it if at all possible. Now, that's not saying that I'm not texting my line coach and we're talking about stuff like that over the weekend, or calling them to talk about like, "Hey, did you see this play?" All that stuff. But for the most part, I try and give my coaches, that weekend to their family the best I can. The best I can.
Yeah, I've had 3 different ways. When I was at Tallwood, we did the Saturday morning. We would get in there early and we would do all our breakdowns. We did it as a staff. We would break down all the games, and watch, kind of get a game plan kicking around, and then they would bust the kids in for us, and then we would have like not a shells, it was more like a helmet, like correction, more like stretching practice. Which I loved.
I was gonna say that's a good deal.
Yeah. And then you have Sundays. You pretty much have Saturday afternoon, really when the games kind of come on,
right,
on through Sunday. And then I've had Sunday meetings. When I was at North Rowan, Pearson, he's a college guy, so he loves to be around, be around each other, which nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And then Mills last year, he got to the point where he was like, he was a meet on Sunday. I mean, honestly, on Sunday afternoon, but he was like, let's move away from it. And he did the sheet the Google document, and everybody had to go in there. We had responsibilities, and us as coordinators put in there what we wanted our guys to do, and you know, if it didn't happen, you know who to go get in contact with, and then but him and I would get on the phone, we would talk though,
Right.
So that would happen, but the other guys, they got to enjoy, their Sunday, they didn't have to come on in, so I like not meeting. I still have to have that phone conversation.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
yeah, but not everybody has to have, complete. You have to sit around and sing kumbaya,
Right.
if that makes sense. So I just wanted to know because like we had a meeting. It was like we'd rather have you Saturday or have you Sunday, and I was like I'd rather have my Saturday. Like let's meet on Sunday after
Right.
church. Let's go and let's meet if we're gonna meet because I want my full day Saturday to watch ball and
Right.
watch our game, grade our film, and kind of have an idea going into Sunday. Which I mean, the game's on, something happens, look up, watch it,
That's
So
right. That's right. And one thing that we did too, well, that we've done, I guess I should say, is we make scouting reports. So,
mhm.
Google Drive has been
Oh yeah.
one of the best coaching tools, which I'm sure everybody's using now. But it's been,
Mhm.
one of the best things I think has happened for the efficiency of coaches. But so we take what we put in that Google sheet, and we create a scouting report that we give to the kids, and it's one page. A little bit about each starting D lineman, you starting linebacker, you starting DB, like a 5 play at most list of plays that we like that week, and any kind of variation or
Mhm.
adjustment to anything that we're doing. And I think that's been beneficial. Um, you know, Having a quarterback who didn't start until his sophomore year, um, I think it helped him with confidence and things like that. But another thing that we started last year, and it was great for us. I think it made us extremely fresh on Friday night. Is on Mondays we didn't practice; we watched film.
Mhm.
So we would watch our previous game, and then we would pick out like 15 to 20 plays of the next team that we're playing. And we didn't walk through on Thursday. We practiced. Now it wasn't like full tackle to the ground,
Yeah.
full pads. It was helmet, it was
Mhm.
uppers, like we call it.
Mhm.
And you know, it was we designed it around that whole walkthrough deal where you have like your 2 minute session, you have red zone and goal line and kickoff, and we made it as game like as we could.
Mhm.
But we basically to an extent gave our kids Monday off from having a full practice. And one thing that we're going to continue doing that this fall, but we're going to add like a walkthrough to it as well.
Mhm.
um but I really feel like later on in the season, we weren't as hurt. It gave our kids time to recover. 1A football, a lot of those guys are playing both
Mhm.
ways, and 5 or 6 of them aren't coming off the field at all. Um, and I feel like it kind of gave us the ability to be able to practice really hard Tuesday, Wednesday, have a moderate to a little bit more intense practice on Thursday, and then rolling into Friday, it seems like we were hitting everything pretty well. But that was one of the things that we started last year, and again, to add to the not wanting to take coaches weekends, we didn't have to worry about calling the kids in on Saturday because, Northeast North Carolina, they're all hunting or fishing or whatever the case is on
Yeah.
Saturday anyway. So I don't know how great our attendance would be. So, to avoid the definition of insanity, that's something that we started, and I think our coaches enjoyed it. And I know our players did. They talked about how much more fresh they felt, and how when we're talking them through film and stuff like that, they really started to pick up on things. There was times where we would be like week 7 or 8, and kids are saying like, "Coach, the corner's playing off and the outside linebacker's coming off the edge. Why don't we throw this?" Or whatever the case is. which I give my quarterback a lot of not necessarily saying the game plan, but we talk a lot of that stuff out. So it was cool to see that, to have them start to see the same things that we do, and then allow them, like I said, to be able to be a little bit more fresh without having 4 full days of running around the practice field.
I mean, that's awesome. I'm not in that position to make the practice plans and stuff like that yet. But yeah, that's good.
It was so hard for me to to get to that, I guess would be the best way to put it. But I really feel like our kids, I don't want to say needed it, but I think they really enjoyed being able to do that. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to treat the previous game the same, pick out 15, 20 plays, show the next team, and then, go out and have like a little jog through type deal.
Yeah.
Of those adjustments or variations of whatever. Because like I said, whatever we got to do to run counter, we're going to do it. Whatever the case is, whether it's, we're seeing a coverage that we haven't seen yet, this is how we're going to bend the, whatever, all that stuff. And that way we kind of get a little bit more than just watching the film and drawing stuff up on the board and all that. But, it was tough for me to say, like, all right, let's give it a shot. And then I felt like, we really, week 2, 3, we were clicking pretty well. So I didn't want to go away from it. I'm super superstitious also. So
yeah,
if we're winning doing that, we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I get that way sometimes as well. Like, hey, yeah, I don't want to be the one that breaks this, by doing something else.
We need to probably devote an episode to superstitions.
Yeah.
My coaches make fun of me all the time for it.
Yeah, I have rituals. I have game day rituals, things I do.
Right. Absolutely.
We definitely can get into that. That's a good idea. But yeah. Well, Coach, you want to wrap it up a little bit? Any final thoughts on episode 1?
No, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to episode 2. Hopefully everybody else that's still watching after an hour and 2 minutes is enjoying it also and is looking forward to episode 2. But I'm glad that we decided to run with this idea, I think, and I hope that it's going to help people in our profession. And I think, when it comes down to it, as long as we're doing that, we're taking care of kids, we're doing everything that we can.
No doubt. What makes me excited for this is that I feel like we could keep going, and so
right, absolutely.
There's other things I was like, oh, I want to ask them this, or let's discuss this, and so to shelf those and write down those ideas for another episode, because I think we go for another hour and a half. So
right, I definitely think that the more we do it, the more stuff we're going to be able to come up with. And then we throw the speakers in, and maybe we'll get big time enough where we can have a hog football chat type deal, and all that, and get some ideas that way too. That'd be cool.
Yeah, man. Well, yeah, I said I've loved it. If you guys, if you thought it was great, make sure you hit, thumbs up and subscribe and leave us a comment. If what suggestions, anything. I'm not big time enough, or I can't take a suggestion. So I say that all the time. If you have anything you want to talk about, anything that maybe you're dealing with at your school, or something you have some advice on, because coach is a head coach, and I've been around the block for a couple of minutes, so we definitely can discuss it and talk about it.
Look, man, like you said, never ever gonna believe that I know more than anybody else, because it's never gonna happen. So if anybody wants to jump on and talk, or have a situation where they think that they can help other people, I mean, I'm not against that either. I'm sure you're not either, Coach, but let's get the countercultural podcast rolling, and let's have some fun with it.
No doubt. Well, guys, we'll see y'all in episode 2, and until then, y'all make sure y'all working for the kids, man, and keep learning this off season.
That's right. Always learn, always do it for the kids.
Man. See y'all.